We'll start this evening sitting down on a block. Just give ourselves a little bit of time to check in. So sitting in any comfortable position, doesn't have to be on a block. You can be on the floor, you could be on a bolster, whatever you need. For this evening's class, the only prop we'll be needing to use will be the block a little bit later on. Allow ourselves to just kind of rock through the seat of your pants. So the purpose of that is not really to wriggle around on your bum. So just to bring that pelvis back into neutral. So if you've been sitting all day, it would kind of feel natural to be stuck in that same hunched position. And we want to sit a little higher, a little taller, a little longer in the spine, and allow the breath to come in. So we'll take the right hand onto the belly, around the belly button, maybe a little lower, and hand onto your heart with the opposite hand. So close your eyes and you breathe in. See if you can feel your belly expand in your right hand. And then feel the chest expand in the opposite hand as the breath comes towards the top. On the exhale, feeling both hands starting to draw back in. Feel the belly draw towards your spine. Slow breath in through the belly, through the ribs, to the top of the chest, into those collarbones. Easing the breath out. Try and keep the shoulders relaxed and a soft jaw. Remember, let the hands come down, opening the eyes. I'm going to interlace the fingers and bring those forearms together so they're touching, and just roll in the wrists. So, rather than thinking about rolling your wrists, you start to slide the forearms up and down. Just kind of get that motion. Think of that as the driving force to the wrists being able to flex and retract a little bit through some gentle circles. And then we'll go the opposite way. I'm trying to keep the elbows touching, those forearms just gliding through. You'll notice that the circles get a little bigger. The movement gets a little more exaggerated as their wrists warm up. We'll shake out the fingers, shake out the shoulders a little bit as well. Bring the palms together. We're going to start to turn the hands towards us so the little fingers touch, and then bring the back of the hands together as we turn the fingers down towards the sky, elbows high, and then roll the hands back palm to palm. Bringing them in towards the heart and then rolling through again. So just some nice gentle stretches. The lift of the elbows facilitates the back of the hands rolling into each other nice and close. We try to get the whole of the rear of the hand to roll in and touch. And again, we'll take that the opposite way. So it starts to work through the shoulders in a slightly different way as well. If you drop the shoulders, or drop the elbows rather, a long way, you won't get the benefit of the movement through the shoulders. So we are working on both. Then we'll bring hands onto the collarbones, so it's some angel wings. We'll bring the elbows together, Inhale in towards the sky and back. Opening out as wide as we can. We'll bring those elbows down to touch the ribs and then across the chest. Little hunch through the spine as we lift up. There's a little bit of opening of the chest and the heart shining towards the sky. And then those elbows dropping back down again. So a little bit of flexion and extension through the spine, a little bit of rocking around through the base. Trying to keep the legs as relaxed as possible. Again, we'll go the opposite way for a few rounds. And then simply float the hands out wide, low, and out towards the sky. Palms together. Exhale back down. We'll take that one more time. Very slow clap. And release down. We'll go and tangle the legs and come onto all fours. Just moving the block out to the side. Coming into our cat-cow. Drawing the chest forwards and the shoulders back, the tailbone to the sky. Allow yourself to press down. Now just make sure your hands are really underneath your shoulders. You might need to adjust. You feel the expanse of the back of the ribs opening up. As you press into the ground, you get a chance to draw the tummy muscles in. And then we'll take the knees nice and wide, heels together. We're going to sit back into child's pose. So we'll sit the haunches down first, and then allow the hands to walk out gently. Finally, ease the head towards the ground. So the stretches come really from the hips rather than the spine rounding into this. Take a breath in and walk hands out towards your right side for a side bend in child's pose. And then we'll lift with our way across to the opposite side. Hands remain about shoulder distance apart. Arms are straight, lengthened out, elbows away from the ground. Ribs just sitting into the thigh. Breath in long and slow, filling the lungs, stretching deep down latissimus dorsi on that right side. We'll come back into the center and lift onto all fours. Bring the knees back underneath, hips, to the toes of your right foot underneath, and lengthen your leg away. Press down through the shin of the opposite leg, lifting the right leg away from the ground. Left hand comes out, palm faces in. Out through the fingers, a flexed foot that's lifted from the ground, points toes to the floor. Fingers stretched through to the front of your mat. Bring the hands back down to the floor, knees to the ground, and we'll cross over to the other side and slide in the left leg back. Press down through the shin to lift. Press into the ground with hands and shins. Keep yourself square. Your heart, your belly button, your pubic bone or stay over the center line of the mat. Use the hands down to the ground. Tuck the toes under. Lift the knees a fraction from the floor. Press away from the ground with your hands. Feel the backs of your shoulders stretching open. And then we'll send the hips back, keep the knees low for a little bit, and then lift into our down dog. Pedaling the legs out if you've been sitting all day. If you're feeling a little bit more warmed up, you might want to be straight and still with the legs. And possibly work a little bit more into the shoulders, dropping the chest towards the ground and towards the feet at the back of the mat. Strange feeling of lifting up as you drop closer to the ground. You're going to come up onto the tippy toes, keeping the legs as straight as you can. We're going to take tiny little steps, just a couple of inches at a time, slowly, continuously moving into the front of the mat, keeping right up on the balls of the feet. The feet stay about hip distance apart. The hips lift up, shoulders taking a lot of weight, inching in as close as we can. And then when you can go no more, you're going to walk back up. Stay high on the tippy toes. Just inching your way back until you can inch into a plank, keeping the shoulders over your wrists. Feet over to the left. Let the right hand lift into side plank. Bring your hands to the floor. Cross it to the opposite side. And hands down to the ground. A step towards the front of the mat. Or jump, your choice. Forward bend. Bring hands onto the shins, halfway up. Let the back of the legs open out a little bit more. And exhale down. Folding over those thighs. Hands onto the shins, inhaling up. And exhale down. Hands to the shins. And ease our way down. We'll take the feet deliberately, a little wider than the shoulders and the hips, and then soften the knees. So that the spine can feel like it's more relaxed and rounded and the head drops. Ragdoll is going to press out through the legs, letting the spine stay curled and the shoulders hanging and the head down until we come all the way back up to standing. Inhale, hands towards the sky. Hands in towards your heart. Now zigzag your feet back towards each other. Give a little gap between the ankle bones. Soften your knees as you squeeze your thighs together, bringing your knees over your toes. Keep the torso long. Allow yourself to sit back. Take the weight into your toes. Sorry, from your toes to your heels. Exhale forwards and then fold. And step back into plank. And take the feet as wide as the mat. Keep those hips high. Take a little breath. And slowly extend the right hand out. Try and keep your body over the center line as much as you can. And bring the hand down, cross over to the opposite side. And come back down. Tap, right hand to left shoulder, hand down to the floor, left to the right, tap. And just tap continuously from side to side. Playing around with the hand positions, gradually working out how to shift the weight. And then back into down dog. Bring the feet back into your hip distance apart. Up onto the tippy toes. Little inchworms, 2 inches at a time. Right up on the balls of the feet. Into that forward bend position. You come as far forward as you can with the legs being straight. So for all of us, that will vary us a little bit. And then we'll walk back again, keeping the hips high, tiny little steps. And into the plank. Feet over to the left, side plank, down to the floor, to the right, hands to the floor. Half plank to up dog. Roll it back into down dog. And scissor the right leg high. In towards the chest, bring the foot through for lunge. Onto the fingertips. And then hands to the floor again, step back into your dog. And scissor the left leg. Strong, toes point. Knee comes through on your exhale. To your lunge, and settle into your breath. Step back into our down dog. Knees come to the floor wide, heels together, sitting back, child's pose. Come up out halfway up into your child's pose. Take your left hand through, thread that under to the right side. Dropping your shoulder and ear to the ground, walk your right hand out to the front of the mat and your left hand to the right side of the mat. See if you can get a sense of rotating your ribs around and to point to the long side of the mat or towards the ceiling. Now let's lift back up. Again, we walk about halfway with the hands. We stretch over, down, walk that left hand this time in front of the mat. Start to roll the chest around. Try to breathe. Now come slowly back. Allow ourselves to walk the hands in. We'll bring the knees in so the thighs are almost touching. Lift up just enough to tuck the toes underneath. Allow ourselves to lift so that all of the weight is able to go through those toe joints, through the arch of your foot. Allow yourself to relax your shoulders, your wrists, your arms, and your elbows. Coming down to the floor, untuck the toes. Allow yourself to lean gently back. Hands flat to the floor, chest lifted, shoulders open, and rolling to the ground. Take the right hand across the chest, slowly arching the spine, watching the fingertips all the way around and down to the floor. Cross over to the opposite side. And down, a little bit too close to the TV. Rolling around. Last one. Now allow yourself to sit up. Adjust the knees just a little bit apart. We're going to come into a swan flow. So I'll bring the hands above the head. Keep the belly drawn in and press your tailbone down. Allow yourself to hinge slowly forwards to the ground. Keep the hips as low as you can. Separate the hands towards the bottom and then roll the spine back up to the ceiling as you sit back up. Hands float out to the side and up to the sky. Draw the belly in and lengthen out. Through the spine to lift back up. One more of those to play with. And so we'll leave the hands at the front of the mat and lift up. And forwards, tuck the toes underneath. Down dog. Take a breath. Adjust the feet to hip distance apart. And then come into high plank. Going to allow ourselves to flick the feet over to the left and bring the right foot forwards about halfway down the mat. So the foot is flat to the floor, the knee is pointing towards the sky. And then press down into that foot to lift this hip a little higher and allow that right hand to stretch up towards the sky. And rather than your head just hanging down to the floor, try and align your neck and your head to the rest of your spine. So lifting up a little bit on the side edge of the rear foot. And that is a strong leg pressing down into the floor as well to help with the lift. Starting to feel those oblique muscles underneath you doing the work to help you lift up. We'll bring the hands back to the floor, step back into the plank, over to the right. Left foot comes forwards. Again, we hip lifts as high as we can. Keep pushing down into the foot closest towards us so we feel that outer edge of the hip working. We feel the obliques underneath supporting. Top hand reaching high. Long leg pressing strong through the side of the foot. Remember to breathe. Think about the head position. And ease the hands back to the floor. Step back into your down dog. We'll step into the front of the mat, a choice of hop, step, or walk. However you want to get to the front end is fine by me. We'll take a little breath. Bring the hands onto the hips and let ourselves lift up. Swoop the hands to the sky on the breath in. Through the heart. Hinge the hips down to the floor. Fingertips and toes aligned. Take a breath. Send your right foot back to lunge and drop the heel in, ready for warrior two. Hands alongside the body as we lift. Draw that right arm forwards and lifting up. Take the hands immediately on the breath in towards the sky and lengthen out again over the front thigh, bringing ourselves down, stepping into down dog, adjusting the feet. We come forwards, plank, half plank, up dog. Roll it back into the down dog. We'll scissor the right leg, strong and long, keeping the hips square. Knee in towards the chest, use your exhale to come forwards into the lunge. Take a breath. Push off the toes. Forward bend. Hands onto the hips. Lift. Through the heart. Exhale down, let the weight come into the toes, softening. Taking the breath in, left leg back, dropping the heel in. Warrior two for the lift. Down through those thighs, shins. Inhale high, extend out, down to the floor. We're stepping it back to our down dog. Come forward into plank. Half plank, keep the elbows in, shoulders back. Inhale, roll it up to down dog. And scissor the left leg. Knee into the chest, foot through. Take a breath. and step in through to the front of the mat. Hands on the hips and lift. Set hands high, breath in. Then hands in towards the heart. Close your eyes. We'll do that again as we open the eyes, but we'll add a power lunge to this. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Stepping the right foot to the back of the mat and dropping the heel in. Hands alongside the body and lift into warrior two. Hands come high, lengthen out about halfway, spin the heel on the back foot towards the sky. Keep the belly drawn in, stretch your fingertips as wide apart as you can. Fingers towards the front of the mat. I'm going to press out through that back heel. Keep the hips nice and square. One more breath. And then bring the hands down to the floor. Step back into our dog. Come forwards into the plank. Half plank. To up dog. To down dog. Scissor the right leg high. Knee into the chest and foot through. Breath. Push off the lunge to the forward bend. Hands on the hips. Let ourselves lift. Come high. Hand through the heart. Exhale down. Take the breath. Left leg back into the lunge. Drop the heel. Lift into your warrior two. Hands come high, we'll rotate. Lengthen out halfway. Lift the back heel. Square the hips. Press out through the back leg. Thigh muscles lifting and contracting on both legs. And then hands down to the floor. Step back into our dog. Come forwards into the plank. Half plank. Up dog. Roll it back into your down dog. Scissor your left leg. Knee into the chest and through. Push off the toes. Forward bend. Hands onto the hips and we lift up. Take the hands high. Into the heart. Close your eyes. So as we open our eyes, we'll add another layer. We'll take high crescent and dips added to that little sequence. Hands to the sky, through the heart, down to the floor. Taking a breath. Right foot back into lunge and drop heel in for your warrior two to lift. Allow yourself to float forwards and up. Take the hands high again. Lengthen out halfway. Heel rises. Find your balance point. Tummy drawn in. Press your tailbone to the ground to lift your body up to the vertical mark. And then allow the back knee to sink towards the ground. Try not to touch. Allow yourself to lift slowly. Back in, drop down. Down again. Two more. Last one. As you come up, bring the hands to the floor. Step back into your dog. Come forward into plank. Half plank to up dog. Roll it into your down dog. Here's the right leg. Knee to chest and foot through. A breath. And then press to the forward bend. Hands to the hips. Inhale your way up. Hands to the sky. Through the heart. Exhaling down. Taking the breath. Left leg back. Dropping the heel in. Slowly extend up to warrior two. Hands come high. Rotate. Lengthen out. Lift the back heel. Check your front knee over your ankle. Belly drawn in. Then send the tailbone to lifting the vertical. We soften the back knee. And then we lift up. So trying to keep the knee over the ankle. So the weight is bearing down through the shin, into the heel, into the foot. Trying to keep those shoulders nice and open and drawn back. Belly in. Two more. Last one. We lift again. Hands to the ground. Into our dog. Plank. Half plank. All the way up. Strong legs. Down dog. Scissor. Left leg. Knee to chest. Foot through. Take a breath. Forward bend. Hands on the hips. Final lift. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Close your eyes. So now for something completely different. Opening the eyes, hands come high. Into the heart. Exhaling down to the floor. Stepping back into our down dog. We'll bring ourselves into high plank. And then simply bring your right knee to touch your right elbow. Take it back to that high plank. To the left elbow. Cross over to the right. Back to the left. And back to the right. And back to the left. And back to the right. And back left. And back right. And back left. And back. Knees to the floor. Sit back. Child's pose. Hands back in, lifting the body up. We'll take the hands behind again. Take a little breath. We're going to take the right hand away, cross that up and over as we did before, but lift the hips up towards the sky, press the pubic bone forwards a little bit, all over. Bring the hand down, let the seat come back down to the floor. Allow yourself to lift up. So for those that have got a better range of mobility in their spine, their front hip flexors and thigh, those hips will lift a little higher. For some that are tighter, just getting your buttocks to lift off your heels will feel like an enormity. Allow yourself to work to your own level. The last round or two. Lift our way back up. Let the hands come into the front of the mat. We'll lift up, all fours, and just step into the front of the mat again. We'll take a little breath from there, bring the hands onto the hips, let ourselves lift through. Bring the hands high, and in towards the heart, closing the eyes again. And just letting some of the heat out of your body. And the breath to come back in the heart. And swing the hands up towards the sky as we breathe in. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Soften your knees over your toes. Allow yourself to sit back a little bit and shift the weight into your left leg. You're going to step the right leg back, into lunge. Unintentional drop of the fingers to the floor. Allow yourself to open up into warrior two. Just lost that a little bit there. Let's slowly extend out towards the front of the mat, aligning the body to the rear thigh. Forearm down and top arm up. The palm goes forwards and stretched out. So hopefully a line between fingertips, shoulders, hips, and rear foot. Start to bring the hand down, keeping the chest to the long side of the mat. 5 windmills. Try not to lean onto this bottom arm. Just keep the weight very loose. Push the forearm into the thigh to push it out to the side a little bit. So there's a little bit of counter work, levering going on. Come around for the last time. I'll lift back into warrior two. Turn the palm of the front hand to reverse our warrior. Ease our way back into warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Lengthen out. It's triangle pose. We'll take a little breath from there. Soften the front knee to lift back into our warrior two. Float the hands high down to the floor on the inside of this front thigh. Turn the heels on the back foot. Wiggle the foot a little further away if there's space, and then drop the knee to the floor. Onto the toes. And take the left hand forwards all the way to the base of your spine. And draw your left knee in towards the center of your body a little bit. Or want to move out towards the left, so just draw it in. Rotate the hand high again. Bring it onto the inside of the front foot. Lift the back knee. Walk the fingers round, long side. Turn the toes in and the heels out. Long spine. Let the fingers be underneath your shoulders. And then fold from the hips. And allow yourself to swing down gently. Keep pressing the feet into the floor to let the back of the knees open. Try and lift the hips towards the sky, drawing your belly in, sending it upwards. Then we'll lift halfway, turn the heels in once, then the toes, then the heels again. Adjusting a little bit, just wiggle from side to side until it feels like you've brought your heels underneath your knees. And then ease your hands onto your thighs to lift up. Keeping nice and low, just still wriggling out a little bit. You're going to lift the heels away from the ground. Try and take the weight out of those wrists, relax the shoulders. Sit as upright as you can, drawing the tailbone down. Feet to the floor. See if those legs will cooperate and lift us. Zigzag the toes together. Turn towards the front end of the mat. Step back, ready for side two. Hands into the heart. Close your eyes. Let yourself to feel your body steady underneath you. Open the eyes. Inhale high with the hands and towards the heart. We'll soften the knees and sit back a little into chair. Shift the weight into the right foot. Slide the left foot back into lunge. Drop the heel in and open up into warrior two. Extend out over the front thigh. Forearm comes down. We'll take the top hand high and start by just stretching the palm out towards the front of the mat, following the line of the body as best we feel. We're taking the chest up towards the sky, rear foot pressing down. Remember, not too much weight in that front forearm. The body is lifting. And then we'll begin the windmills. We'll drop the hand down to the floor, back towards the hip. Keep the chest open and lifted. That's 1. 2. 3. 4. And 5. We'll come back into warrior two. Turn the palm front hand to reverse warrior. Back into warrior two. Hands come high and down to the inside of the front leg. Again, we'll just wiggle the back foot away as we lift the heel towards the sky to drop the hips low. Allow yourself to drop the knee. Untuck the toes. Use the right hand forwards and up. Rotate, palm onto the base of the spine. Squeeze the inner thigh of your front leg to the center line as you open your chest. Press into the rear shin, down through that supporting hand. Rotate the hand high again. Bring it to the inside of the front leg. Lift the back knee as we press out through the heel. Turn the toes, walk into that long side of the mat and adjust. Take a breath, allow yourself to hinge over and down. Feel like those thighs are lifting you up as you press down through your feet. Those legs are probably trembling a little bit. They've done a lot of work. Keep the belly drawn in. One more breath. Ooh, lift up halfway. Bring the heels in, then the toes, then the heels. A little wiggle from side to adjust. And then keeping the spine long, the hands come on to the thighs. We lift up. Get up as upright as we can. Lift the heels away. Try and relax the shoulders down. So there's very little weight in the hands. They're really just sort of keeping out of the way. And then the heels come to the floor. Hinge forwards and down, hands to the ground. Walk around to the front of the mat into your lunge and step back into your down dog this time. Into plank, let the knees come to the floor. Whew. And we'll take the feet out to the side. We use the block, place that underneath our bottoms. Take the legs out in front. Sitting tall, Dandasana, we roll the thighs in, squeeze the feet together a little bit, flex the toes towards us, hands by the side of the body. And then we'll take the left leg, wrap it to the outside of that right hip, so the knee points forwards. We'll cross over with the right over left. Take the left hand high as the spine lengthens up towards the sky. There's a little sort of forward tilt in the pelvis as we rotate round. Option to look over the rear shoulder or chin following the chest, pointing out sort of towards the front edge of the mat. So we reach the top of the heat curve. Time to come back down. Release. Untangle the legs and just move into the opposite side. Take your time to set it up. And release. Put the legs out in front. We come into Janu Shirshasana, so we're going to bring this right heel into the groin, square the hips, thigh down to the floor, roll the thigh in, toes to the sky, a little bend in the knees, lift up, and fold over. Spine long, lifting your chest up and forwards. Bring the hands to the floor or remain with the hands on the top of the shin, your choice. You'll notice that we're purposely not trying to reach forwards with the hands. And we'll lift away from the ground. Cross it over to the opposite leg. Square again. A little bend in the knee. The bottom foot, heel into the groin, toes flexed towards the front of the mat. Toes of the front foot up towards the sky, little flex, a little press of the heel into the ground. Again, the hands can come to the side if that feels good. And then let ourselves lift up. Have both feet forwards. Come off the block. Just move that out of the way. Squeeze the thighs together. Toes flex towards you. Bend in the knees. Hands onto the shins. Spine long. Fold yourself onto the thighs. See if you can take your hands so the palms press into the calves lightly. Draw yourself down an extra sort of an eighth of an inch. Keep the shoulders nice and broad away from the ears. So it's easy to breathe. Keep the head in line with where you believe the spine is, and actually draw the crown of your head forwards. Using the hands to bring the legs to you rather than you down to your legs. Subtle difference in where the effort moves to. And then release. And we'll come to the floor again. Knees high, shimmy the bottom forward so that as you lean back, your head will be on your mat. And take your block between your thighs. We're going to come into bridge pose. We're going to use that. A little bit of support. Let's move the trousers out of the way a little bit. The shoulders underneath. Bring the hands alongside the body. Have a little look. Try and set your feet to where you think they'll be directly underneath your kneecaps. The shins are vertical. So you don't have to sort of look around to the side of your body. Just look at your knees, get a perspective, and adjust your feet to where you think they need to be and in parallel to each other. Bring the hands alongside the body and start to squeeze the brick gently between the thighs. Roll weight shoulder blade down into the floor. Draw your lower back to the ground and you start to lift your tailbone away from the floor and send your hips towards the sky. You're going to ease your hands together and then just roll the shoulder blades underneath a little more. So you bring your chest towards your chin. Allow the knees to press towards the front of the mat. Press down through the shins. Try and have the weight even through the feet. So notice things like if you're rolling into the side edge of a particular foot or both, and adjust. If you notice that you're gripping your toes into the floor, so you can release and still press down through your legs at the same time. Last breath in. And then roll the spine down to the floor as you release your hands from underneath. And keep the spine flat to the ground and inhale your hands towards the sky. And then let them drop to the floor behind. I'm trying to get the back of the wrists to touch the ground. Might need to take them out a little wider for that to happen. Then I'm going to move the hands back down along the side. I'm going to choose to use the block and place it underneath the back of the head, mostly because it makes it easier for me to look up towards the clock. So you don't need to use that, but if it feels comfortable, you can. Begin to wiggle your feet using your toes to the corner edges of the mat, and then slide the heels when you run out of toes along the floor. Let the legs roll open. And then on a big sigh, allow your body to sink or float, whichever word best describes the feeling of relaxation in your body. Eyes closed, jaw soft. We sit here in silence for a few minutes. Wriggle through the fingers and the toes, ankles and wrists. And from the breath, allow yourself to come back into your body, just a little reconnection time. And then when you're ready, allow yourself to stretch in any way that feels good. And then slowly draw the heels one leg at a time towards you. And allow one knee at a time to come in for the softest and gentlest of hooks. We'll rock on gentle spine movement, or moving the knees around into some easy circles, all without stress or effort. We'll roll carefully onto the right side, taking the breath in, and use the exhale as we land to press into the floor and lift up back to sitting. Bring hands towards your heart. Take your breath in. And as you exhale, let the chin drop. Draw the belly to the spine. Bow slowly to the floor. In your practice for the evening. Inhale, let the spine build with your breath. So your head lifts and your eyes open. Namaste. Have a lovely evening. Hope to see you on the mat again soon.